right, let's dive in. We're about to explore a world that's hidden in plain sight, a world that moves on a timescale our senses just can't track. It's a place full of high-speed chases, ancient memories, and a kind of intelligence that will absolutely change how you look at every single plant, from a giant redwood all the way down to that little succulent on your desk. So let's start with a kind of a wild idea. What if plants aren't slow? What if we are? Our whole human perception of time is just one narrow little frequency. Plants, they're operating on a totally different wavelength, one that's so deliberate and stretched out that to us it just looks like they're standing still, but they're not. It is a world of constant, purposeful motion. I mean, think about it. For most of human history, that's how we've seen them, right? As just scenery, the green stuff in the background of our much more important lives. But what if that's a complete misreading of what's actually going on? What if I told you that beneath that quiet, green exterior, there's a universe of high-speed action, of complex communication, and, get this, even memory? Well, that's exactly what we're about to uncover. Okay, to really shatter that myth of the passive plant, we've got to start with the most shocking evidence there is. We're talking about plants that move at speeds that seem to defy the laws of biology. Get this, 25 microseconds. It's a number so small it's almost meaningless to us. To put that in perspective, take the blink of an eye and chop it into 10,000 tiny pieces. That's the speed. The white mulberry tree fires its pollen at over half the speed of sound. This isn't just movement, it is a biological explosion. And the mulberry tree is not alone in this plant speed league, not even close. You've got the bladderwort, an underwater plant with a suction trap that fires in half a millisecond. And then there's the famous Venus flytrap, which is actually kind of a slowpoke compared to these guys. It snaps shut in a tenth of a second. Still, literally faster than you can blink. So how in the world does it work? It's pure biological elegance. See those little trigger hairs? When an insect brushes against one, it sends out a tiny electrical signal, basically a nerve impulse. But, and here's the genius part, one touch does nothing. The plant is waiting. It needs a second touch on a different hair within about 30 seconds. That's a short-term memory system. It's making sure it doesn't waste energy snapping shut on a false alarm, like a raindrop. Once it gets that confirmation, boom, a rapid shift in water pressure flips the leaf inside out, and the trap slams shut. Okay, so reacting to things in real time is amazing, but plants do something even more incredible. They anticipate the future. They don't just respond to what's happening. They have this deep, ancient, internal clock that tells them what's about to happen. And this idea goes way back. We're talking almost 300 years ago. An astronomer did this incredibly simple experiment. He just put a mimosa plant in a dark closet and watched. And even with no sun, no cues from the outside world, the plant kept its rhythm. It opened and closed its leaves right on schedule. That proved the clock wasn't external. It was coming from inside the plant itself. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. Plant clocks are fundamentally different from ours. You know how jet lag can wreck you for days after a flight? That's our internal clock slowly, painfully trying to catch up. A plant, it can reset its clock to a new light cycle incredibly fast. And that makes perfect sense, right? If you're literally rooted to one spot, you have to be able to sync up with your local environment, and you have to do it fast. It's a survival superpower. So, plants can move fast. They can tell time, but this next part, this is where it starts to feel like science fiction. It turns out plants don't just adapt in their own lifetime. They can actually pass their experiences, their memories, down to their children. Yeah, the scientific term is transgenerational plasticity, which sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine a mother plant lives through a really bad drought. It can take the memory of that stressful experience and actually package it into its seeds. It's essentially priming its offspring, giving them a biological head start for surviving in a similar world. So how on earth do they do this? It's all about biochemistry. For one, the parent can change the mix of nutrients and hormones it packs into the seed. But the really profound way is through something called epigenetic marks. Now think of DNA as a huge instruction manual. These marks don't rewrite any of the words in the manual. Instead, they're like little sticky notes that the mother plant adds, telling the offspring which chapters to pay close attention to and which ones to maybe ignore.
It's a form of soft inheritance, a way to pass on survival wisdom. Okay, let's step back for a second. We've got plants moving at the speed of sound, telling time, and passing memories to their kids. When you put all of that together, you arrive at a pretty radical, and for some people, controversial conclusion: the idea of plant intelligence.
And listen, before you think this is some kind of fringe idea, guess who was talking about it more than 140 years ago? Charles Darwin. Yeah, that Darwin. He watched how a plant's root tip would explore the soil, and he said it was like the brain of one of the lower animals. He saw purpose, he saw decision making. But that brings up a huge question. How can you be intelligent without a brain? The answer is a concept called distributed intelligence. Instead of having one central command center like we do, a plant's smarts are networked all over its body. It's less like a single computer and more like the internet. Every single root tip is a node, processing information and contributing to the whole. And that's a brilliant evolutionary trick. A deer can come by and eat 90% of the plant, but the network is still online.
And the evidence just keeps growing. I mean, this stuff is amazing. Scientists have literally taught mimosa plants to learn that a stimulus is harmless, and the plants remember that lesson for weeks. They can recognize their siblings in the soil and will be less competitive with them. They can even hear the specific vibrations of a caterpillar chewing on a leaf and start pumping out chemical defenses before the caterpillar gets too far. That is not passive behavior. That is active problem solving.
So all of this research does more than just give us cool facts. It completely reframes our relationship with the world around us. It suggests that maybe intelligence isn't something that needs to be locked away inside a skull. Maybe it's a network property of life itself. And that leaves us with one last really big question. If an entire world that can think and learn and remember has been operating right under our noses this whole time, what else are we missing?